How to multiply decimals. We first want to ask ourselves, will our answer be positive or negative? So we look at our integer rules. A positive number times a positive number is another positive number. So we need to make a note to ourselves that when we're done multiplying, we'll have a positive answer. We're going to multiply like normal as if we didn't have decimal points. So I'm going to put 1 6/10 on top times the whole number 5. I don't need to line up the decimals because when I'm done multiplying, I'm going to move my decimal point. 6 times 5 is 30, carry the 3, and 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. I'm going to count the number of digits behind the decimal place, which is just 1 for this problem. I'm going to start at the end or the far right of my number and move to the left once. 5 times 1 6/10 is the whole number 8. As I look at my second example, I'm going to ask myself, is my answer positive or negative? A negative times a negative is a positive, so I will have a positive answer when I'm done multiplying. I'm going to take the number with the most digits and put it on top. Again, I don't need to line up my decimal points. 8 times 7 is 56. 5 times 5 is 35, plus 5 is 40. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 4 is 25. 7 times 0 is 0, plus 2 makes 2. I'm going to scratch out the numbers that I've already used. Put down a 0. 8 times 1 is 8. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. And 1 times 0 is 0. Now I'm going to add my 2 rows up. Now in this problem, I have 2 numbers that have decimal points. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits behind the decimal. So I start to the far right, and I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to the left. And there will be the answer to my multiplication problem. And again, my answer is positive because a negative times a negative is a positive. Three and a half times 2800ths. A positive times a positive is a positive. It will not matter which number I put on the top of this multiplication problem because they both have 2 digits. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 4 makes 28. Scratch all the numbers I've used. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 makes 7. Again, I'm going to add my 2 rows. In this problem, I count 1, 2, 3 digits behind the decimal, so I will move 1, 2, 3 times. My answer is 98 hundredths. As I look at my last multiplication problem, I am going to ask myself if my answer will be positive or negative, and a positive times a negative will be negative. I'm going to take 5 2500ths and put it on top times the whole number 8. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 makes 20. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 2 makes 42. Since 8 is a whole number, the decimal is to the right, and there are no digits following it. But in 5 1/4, I've got 2 digits behind the decimal. So I'm going to start on the far right of my answer and move 2 places to the left. My answer will be the whole number negative 42. Now as we move on to some division problems, we can use our integer rules for division. Now, the great thing about dividing with integers is that they're the same rules as multiplying with integers. So a negative divided by a positive will be a negative answer. So my quotient to this problem will be negative. 2 and 1500ths is my dividend. It will go inside the division box. And the 5/10 is my divisor, so it goes outside. You do want your divisor to be a whole number. So we're going to move our decimal once to the right to make 5/10 the whole number 5. To stay fair, we are going to take the decimal on the dividend and also move it once to the right and then bring it up into your quotient. Now that we've got all our decimal points where they belong, we're going to pretend they're not there. And we're just going to take the whole number 5 and ask ourselves if it goes into the number 2. It does not. Does the number 5 go into the number 21? It does 4 times. With a remainder of 1, bring down your next number. 5 goes into 15 3 times. Subtract again, and we get a remainder of 0. We are done with the division, and we have a remainder of 0. So negative 2 and 1500ths divided by a half is negative 4 and 3/10. So the division remains the same. We just have to make sure we are moving our decimal and using our integer rules. Example number 2 is already set up for us as far as the division problem, so we have to ask ourselves, a positive divided by a positive is another positive. My answer will be positive. The divisor is not a whole number, so we're going to move 1 time to the right, and we'll move 1 time to the right inside the division problem, and then bring it up to the quotient. 8 does not go into 1. 8 goes into 12 1 time. Remainder 4. Since our remainder is smaller than our divisor, we know that the answer in our quotient is big enough. We bring down the 9. 8 goes into 49 6 times. With a remainder 1. 1 is smaller than 8, so we know that our number in the quotient is big enough. We bring down our last number. 8 goes into 16 2 times. We have reached the end of our number, and our remainder is 0. So 12 and 9600ths divided by 8/10 is 16 and 2/10. Our third example is set up, it looks like a fraction, but we notice that a positive divided by a positive is a positive, so my answer will be positive. The 35 is the dividend. It will go inside. The decimal point is behind the 5. 7/10 is the divisor. We want to make sure our divisor is a whole number, so we're going to move to the right 1 time. So we will do the same thing on the inside and bring up in our answer. And now we do regular division. 7 does not go into 3. Then 7 does go into 35 5 times. With a remainder of 0. We don't stop dividing here because we do have one more number left in our dividend. So 7 goes into 0 0 times. So 35 divided by 7/10 is the positive whole number 50. And our last example, we have a negative divided by a negative, which gives us a positive. 1 and 3500ths is our dividend, so it goes inside the division symbol. 15 goes outside for the divisor. 15 is already a whole number, so I don't need to move the decimal point to the right, but I will bring it up and put it in my quotient. 15 does not go into 1. 15 also does not go into 13, so I'm going to put a 0 there. 15 does go into 35, I believe 7 times. 15 times 7. That gives me 105, so that would not be enough. If I do 105 and minus 135, I get a remainder of 30. When my remainder is larger than my divisor, I know that I have not used a number big enough in my quotient. And since 15 can go into 30 twice, we need to make the 7 a 9. 15 times 9 is exactly 135 with a remainder of 0. So negative 1 35/100 divided by negative 15 is a positive 9/100. I hope these videos have helped. If you still have questions, please visit your teacher in tutorials.